Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living this morning. I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, which is entitled Confident Living. And you can follow along with me, and then as we get down to the bold part, you can join me in that area. Our theme this month has been Stepping Out in Faith, and this Sunday's message is Confident Living. To me, these two ways of being blend and mold together to form the most beautiful dance of life. When I think of confident living, I see a person who is steeped in an aura of sureness that doesn't come from the ego, but comes from somewhere and something deep within. How many times I've looked at another and wished I had their confidence and grace of living. And then many times shortly thereafter, I also realized that they too might surely have moments or even seasons of doubt, question, and uncertainty. For the tides, winds of change, and seasons of life ebb and flow with us all. It is a wise and helpful practice to remember that as a normal human being, I will experience the gambit of human emotions. I will inevitably say or do something that doesn't show my true whole and holy self. That I can accept myself just as I am, knowing that I and all are doing the very best we can at any moment, based on our level of consciousness at the time. That is why I set my priority to go within daily, to wash away and clear out the debris of yesterday that might cling and linger on my being, so that I may be open and available to giving and receiving the gifts of spirit that abound and surround at all times in all places. When I set my small ego aside, I can actually live in the present moment without drama, tension, angst, or fear. There is then a clarity of the presence taking the lead and guiding my every thought, word, and deed. It is in this frame of mind and willingness that true confidence, true knowing, true divine grace comes forth to be a blessing to myself and others. Say with me, as I daily and perhaps even hourly remember to remember my true holy nature, I let and allow my higher self to come forth, to live in, as, and through me. I am blessed and am a blessing, and it is so. Let's go ahead and get this right. Some of you might be recognizing that you think that maybe I forgot to do the prayer this morning. That's where it's supposed to be in the program. The prayer is supposed to be this, but that's okay. We'll still pray, guys. Don't worry about it. So it seems to me, at least in my mind, that Easter was a lot longer ago than just last week. Does that seem to you? Yeah, I don't know. It must have been a full week. So our theme this month has been stepping out in faith. And how are you doing with that? Have you thought about it much? I love the quote attributed to Martin Luther King Jr., where he said, "Take the first step even if you can't see the whole staircase when you start." That's what stepping out in faith is. I think it's a very valuable lesson. And I think that all of us, in order to take that first step, need to go within and listen, ask for guidance for that higher self within us. Jesus the Christ taught us that we were to ask and it is given. Knock and the door will be opened. Seek and you will find. So our goodness awaits our stepping forth initially into it. It doesn't hit us over the head. We are the ones that need to initiate the action into a higher level of consciousness. When I think about the seek and acting, one of the lines from Star Trek come to mind. Go boldly where no one has gone before. Go boldly where no one has gone before. That just feels so freeing, doesn't it? And it's not to do it in a haphazardly way. It's not to do it in a reckless way, but with sureness, confidence, I think it's time for us to leave that small egoic self behind us so that we can step forth into our fullness of life. Emerson said it so eloquently: get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. That bloated nothingness is that little ego self. In order to go beyond that and try to make things happen with our ego, if we can just step aside and allow this greater good to come forth through us, what a joy, what a surprise normally we will find. I watched a movie this last week that was called Breathe, and in it, it was based on a true story. Put that down there. I'm going to grab a little bit of water. It was produced in 2017, and it was about a man and his wife, Robin and Diana Cavendish. So this young couple had just married. She was actually pregnant with their first child when in 1959, as they were visiting Africa, he ended up contracting polio. And I contracted polio in 1955, and I was so grateful that of the 3 types of polio, I had 2 of them, didn't have the 3rd one with where you had to be in an iron lung for your breathing. So I've been always grateful for that. But this Robin Cavendish did contract all 3 types of polio. And so he was on a ventilator in order to breathe. And his wife loved him dearly. And he at one point said, just let me die. And she would have none of it. She said, no, you're not going to do that. So they returned home to England, and they literally, with the help of some friends, busted him out of the hospital with his ventilator in tow. And the doctor, when he recognized that he was leaving, said, you'll be dead in 2 weeks. And what happened is the wife, Diana, took over the care of him. Day and night, she was doing everything for him that she needed to do, which was everything. He could move his face muscles. He could speak, and he could use, ways that he could use his face. But that was it. He had no other muscle usage. And so this man, lying in this bed, engineered a way to make a wheelchair and to accommodate his ventilator on it as well, because he wanted to have a quality of life where he could get outside and do things. And so over the years, I'm not sure exactly who contacted him or how he became aware of someone to be able to finance the mass production of these wheelchairs. And that's what happened. He went back to the hospital where he had been with the ward of all the men in there and had a wheelchair for each one of them so that they could leave and live their own life, as they wanted to. He went on to live 36 more years. What is so astonishing about it as well is that this true story was filmed, the filmmaker was his son, Jonathan. So I highly recommend it. It's an inspiring story, and it talks about, things happen in life that we don't plan, that we don't want, that we would wish that wouldn't happen to us. And I have no idea what the spiritual level is of this man, this gentleman. It didn't really depict that at all. But he was someone, I believe, that figuratively speaking, he took the first step on the ladder of life, having no idea where it was going to lead, where that staircase was going to lead, and just pursued his hope, his wishes, his desire that others could be freed of living a life of bedridden life. And he did it. I believe he demonstrated confident living more than any of us can. we can all take that as a means of knowing that each and every one of us have that same ability to produce and to bring forth the confidence that we have within us. And for me, I think it means that we live in the present moment. Because so many times when we think of something that went wrong in the past, something that was not to our liking, we have a tendency to focus on it, to bring it back up again, to regurgitate it, to all this story and this and that and the other thing. I remember when I had my polio at the time, now this was in 1955, so it was a little earlier than his, and but I was referred to as handicapped. In this movie, they were talking about all these people were disabled, and I thought that was kind of interesting because I don't think disabled terminology came in until later, although he contracted it in 59, so he was a little bit later. And he was in England, so maybe they used that term. But I do remember that all my life, I have never, ever thought of myself as handicapped. And I think that even though now it's been, well, let's see, what's 72 minus 5? A few years. 67 years. Lefty is, a lot weaker than it used to be, but it still doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do. It just takes a little more time and a little more ingenuity to figure out how to make things work and how to do them. So our challenge as human beings, no matter what happens to us, is to bring forth this infinite potential within us in our own unique way. I was happy to lead a meditation segment for the Anton virtual conference that happened on Friday. Anton is affiliated New Thought Network. It's our umbrella organization that our church is under. And so it was interesting because I had an hour-long segment of guided meditation. That was my duty. And so I found a file that I had, organized, thank goodness, in COVID when, there wasn't too much to do. I organized all my paperwork and found this file on meditation. And so I had written, I shared 4 different meditations that I had written in 1997, 1998, long before I became a minister. It just surprised me that they were still pretty darn good, I thought. There wasn't too much of a change in my stance on the way life works. So so I'm coming up now. This year is my 20th year as a minister. This year is the 30th anniversary of this church's foundation. So on July 17th, we are going to have a celebration. You put it on your calendar, and we're going to be doing that. I've already contacted James Higgins, is going to be our soloist for that day. So please mark your calendars to be here for that. So I want to reiterate, as I had put in the thought for the week, that our divine nature is whole, perfect, and complete in each and every one of us. There's nothing we have to do to get it there. It is there. Our job, our duty, our challenge is to bring it out, is to find it so it can be released. God can only do for us what it can do through us. I think when we move toward recognizing the goodness that we are, that so many other negative things in life just fall off the wayside. I had lunch with a congregant this last week, one who's just celebrating a 90-some birthday, and this person is wonderful, and he said this comment that just said, I got to write this down. I've got to write this down. This is amazing. He said, life is easy if you don't fight it. Life is easy if you don't fight it. How many times do we try to fight life? what is, trying to make it something other than what it is, to accept it, to surrender, to allow this life, that what it has given us, something that we can work with, something that we can do, something that we can find the goodness in it. I wanted to share with you one of the segments of the meditation that I had written. I express God in this world, for there is no beginning and no ending of God. I am totally immersed in the wholeness of God, and everything I view in this world is also totally of God. There is nothing else. Every plant, every animal, every human, every product, every thought, every condition is of God. And those things that I would label as bad or imperfect or wrong are also of God. Therefore, I recognize my judgment is based on my perspective. I now choose to open my mind, eyes, and heart to judging with right judgment. Knowing that the divine pattern is one of perfection, I choose to allow this perfection to be reflected through me this day. I have the right and responsibility to discern the truth for me, and I am confident and willing to be the individual self that I am, all the while cognizant of the perfect divine wholeness in which I am immersed. If we could only live our life day by day in that kind of an attitude, to recognize that there is this beautiful divine aura that is within us and around us and all about us, being our cheerleaders, cheering us on to whatever it is that we have within us, this divine potential that perhaps we're not even aware of. So I'm asking you this week to step out in confidence, to step out in faith, knowing that you can set aside any type of worry, any type of wonder, and know that as we are doing the work that our divine self is whispering in our ear, is telling us in our hearts, that we may not know what the second step is, but we can certainly know what the first step is, and to do it, to step forth in confidence and do it. And maybe it'll turn out totally different than we ever thought, and that's okay. So I'm asking you to step out in confidence and know that this universe, this energy of the divine, this amazing potential that's infinite, will step up as well to support you, to bring you the joy, the love, the health, the wholeness, the being that you are. I love you all. Namaste.